We have our full card set for Full Gear, and this go home show kind of tied up a lot of things going into that show. Plus, there is also a kind of a countdown show tomorrow night. I'm curious what additional will be on there. Those are usually pretty good, so I'll probably download it quickly and zip through it just to see what new was in it, because sometimes there's a lot of just rehashing of stuff, and and it's usually over on the YouTube as well. So yeah, it's good. Other than that, we actually had some fun matches, lots of video packages coming in and out of commercials and whatnot. And like I said, just tying up a lot of things going into the pay-per-view that I think kind of hyped up and kind of put a nice little bow on some of these stories to kind of push them over the line of getting them onto the pay-per-view. So what did you think about this show? And you're muted.
I'm so sorry about that. I was just about to say, I thought this was a little below average. I didn't like this as much as last week. I still think it was a good show. It did, like you said, very reasonably well to kind of set the stage for Full Gear, but I think it did so at the cost of a little intensity. And I feel like there was some opportunities for greater angles or just even a little bit more raw emotion, with a couple exceptions, that could have been shown to get me hyped up just a little bit more. We'll obviously talk about the specific segments and matches that I feel the show did appropriately hype me for, but I think there were a couple that I was let down by a little bit.
Sure, I can see that happening. So thanks everybody for tuning into That's Wrestling. My name is Eric, and with me tonight I have Caleb Johnson. And if you are watching this on YouTube, we do this as a podcast. You can find it on all your favorite podcast apps. But if you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on YouTube. So go check out that. The link is in the show notes to the channel, and if you hit the bell notification, I'll let you know as soon as we schedule a live stream. AEW tends to be the night after Dynamite at 7 p.m. and then pay-per-view we'll be doing 7 p.m. on Sunday this time around. So be sure to check out our post Full Gear review, and also we'll probably be doing a New Japan show early next week because Power Struggle is going to be also on Saturday. It'll be Saturday morning for us, so it's actually going to be before Full Gear, but I'm going to wait for the English commentary, which has been a couple day delay because they're not doing them live. So be on the lookout for that. So let's get into this show here, and we start off. Jericho is with Dasha, Jake Hager, and who else was it? Ortiz?
Yeah,
no, Santana. Santana was with them because the match was Ortiz and Sammy. So he's just basically hyping up Jake. You know, he just had a MMA fight which he won, so he is undefeated in MMA. He's 3-0 now. And then MJF cuts in and says that, hey, I feel things were a little tense last week. And Jericho says, I think you're almost the complete package, but there's something missing. I mean, look at us. We're a little sick in the head, and we'll do anything to win. And that pretty much wrapped up that. There wasn't much going into this as far as I thought on this promo.
Not a lot, but it was actually pretty cute, pretty funny. I like them starting off with a little bit of promo. Just using every available minute to, fill that show out and really round it out, allow the feuds and or the matches for Full Gear to, get a little bit more screen time, just highlight here where you can. So I like them using the opportunity. Actually, really I don't think it was on purpose, but it was kind of funny when Jericho looked at Hager and was like, who's that guy you beat? Whatever. And in his head, I think he wanted him to say him the name. And Hager was like, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think he said
he was nobody.
I think he is Brandon something, but he's like, Brandon Cutler? No, he works here. And then he's like, what was that guy's name? He's like, doesn't matter.
It doesn't even matter. I thought that was funny.
That was great.
Got me a good chuckle. And you know what? Great visual. He's got a couple black eyes. He's cut up a little bit. So that was cool.
Jericho joins the commentary team for the night. Really, he didn't need to be on commentary all night. Really, he should have just been out there for this one match that started off the show, and I think it would have been fine. I didn't find he really added much to the rest of the night. It really only made sense for him to be out there for this first match, which was Sammy Guevara and Ortiz, who do not want MJF in the inner circle, versus MJF and Wardlow. And basically, the match kicked off. Wardlow and MJF beat Ortiz for a while, and they were actually wrestling as complete heels, whereas Ortiz and Sammy were actually fighting pretty much as baby faces. Sammy eventually gets tagged in. He goes crazy, hits a bunch of running knees, a corkscrew dives, springboard double cross body. Later on in the match, he did a springboard somersault dive to the outside. Sammy ends up hitting the GTH on MJF, but Wardlow breaks up that pin. Ortiz and Sammy then beat down Wardlow for a bit. Then Ortiz gets tagged back in for a double team suplex attempt, but Wardlow turns it into the Tower of Doom spot that we have seen a zillion times. Then he hits an F10 on Ortiz. Sammy hits a splash to the back of Wardlow while he's pinning Ortiz to break up that pin. And then with Sammy on the outside, Serpentico throws a chair in Sammy's face, and it's actually Matt Hardy in disguise. And when that happens, MJF puts on the Salt of the Earth armbar on Ortiz and gets the tap out victory. And then, while heading to the back, MJF makes a little detour and spears Jericho out of his shoes through the backdrop at the commentary table. And as they get pulled apart, and Jericho is gathering himself, he just has this giant grin across his face. Like, that's the fire I want to see out of this guy type of deal. Like, he's not even mad about it.
No, exactly. Great opening match. Really enjoyed this one. This is actually one of I don't know if it was my favorite match, although we were a little light on matches and a little heavier on video packages and promos this week. But this was a very good opener. Wardlow looks great. The more you and I have talked about it a little bit, I'm kind of like, yeah, I get behind this Wardlow singles push that I hope that they go to here in the next year or so. I really love him. Little interesting note: Tower of Doom spot. Who was at the top? MJF, and he took the brunt of the move, and they sold it as such. So I thought that was kind of another little tease there. Sammy and oh boy,
Ortiz.
Man, that was my prediction from the onset, was that they were gonna go face, and when hopefully MJF takes over the inner circle, that those are the two who are gonna become babyface with Chris Jericho. That's my prediction. I think they teased it well here. They both work well babyface, which they were 100% babyface in this match. And I liked it. I liked this a lot. And the spear at the end looked really good. I'm glad. I didn't know MJF really had that in him, but he charged him and put him through the backdrop. Was kind of giving him those work punches, but it looked cool. So I'm a big fan of this segment. I really liked it. I agree with you, by the way, about Chris Jericho probably only needed to be there for this match, but also I'm kind of glad he was there all night. I like him on commentary a lot. I'm also a big Chris Jericho mark. So
yeah, he's fun on commentary, but when they have 3 other people already on commentary, it's kind of like you don't really need a 4-person booth, let alone a 3-person.
Yeah, but then he gets to call Tony Schiavone all night. I love that.
Next up, we had Kenny Omega video package. He's doing a sit down with Tony, and Tony's like, "Oh, I like your house. I like your dog." And he's like, "This isn't even my house. This isn't my dog. I'm just here. I just temporarily moved to Jacksonville to prepare for this match." And basically, Tony asks how he feels about having to face replacements, because Sonny Kiss was a replacement, and then Penta replaced Phoenix because Phoenix was hurt in their match. And he's like, I could have gone back to Tony Khan, said, no, I want to buy, but no, I want to get to the finals on my own merit. And then in regards to facing Adam Page, he's like, I really thought that Wardlow was going to win that match at one point. And he says he's won all the big tournaments out there, and he's destined to win this one and become the next AEW champion. Really inflated ego on this. he took a dig at Hangman Page at one point, just kind of like a backhanded compliment type of deal. I thought this was fine. Kenny's just in basically a ragged old t-shirt and pajama pants.
Honestly, Kenny is starting to do the character work that I really like. I think like it was so cool because he kind of implied that he should have had buys.
Right.
And it was kind of like he was pretending like, oh, I got by on my own merit. And like, that's fine. But he kind of leaned into that, like, well, what happens in other sports? Of course I should have had a buy, you know? So it was this perfect balance, similar to like his in-ring work, which is kind of this weird tweener, but it's obviously heel, but it's really like full of himself, kind of like, oh, but I'm so valiant. I'm so cool, you know? Like, I don't know. Just the interview really suited the in-ring work from the last couple weeks. And I really liked it. I thought that this was really good. When he said that he's won the most prestigious tournaments in the world, I was like, say it. You won't. Say it.
I'm surprised they didn't. I don't know why they didn't say that he's won the G1.
Oh, man, I wanted him. I just said, please say G1. Say it. Yeah. He didn't say it. So I was really upset about that. But otherwise, no, great segment.
Yeah, I love his delivery. Just like he has that I am the biggest douchebag in the world delivery, even though the words that are coming out of his mouth are different than what the tone put on them are.
Right.
So it's hard 100%. hard to throw in a review. But yeah,
I really enjoyed him, even just if it was just to mention, putting over Wardlow and saying that he thought that it would be him winning. And what's funny is, if you think about the segment they did later with Hangman Page, he said, of course, it's obvious it was going to be me and Kenny. Like, we were the best. But Kenny said it was going to be Wardlow. Right. So it's kind of like the views they have of one another. You know, Hangman, even though he's nervous, he respects Kenny as a competitor. And Kenny said, nah, I didn't think he was going to get here.
Next up, we have Miro making his singles debut versus Trent. They have a picture-in-picture. It was a video call with Excalibur between the two of them, so that so all three of them are on, and Trent basically tries to lay into Miro that you were my young boy when we were in FCW carrying my bags, and they just had a shouting match and they cut that off. And before the match, Miro grabs the mic, says Trent is ignorant and stupid and his mom never taught him any manners, and Trent attacks right away off of that. Miro comes back with some power moves. Kip Sabian and Chuck Taylor end up fighting on the outside, and then eventually they end up fighting to the back. Ford is blocked by Orange Cassidy. He wouldn't let her follow them to the back. Miro is distracted a little bit here. Trent tries to make a comeback. Miro just keeps beating the crap out of Trent, tosses Trent through the ropes into the ring post, and he falls all the way to the floor. He picks him up on the outside and runs him into the post. And then Penelope and Orange Cassidy have a little face-off, and Penelope smacks Orange Cassidy across the face. His glasses go flying. So he grabs the glasses off of Penelope's head and puts them on himself. They're huge, like, cat eye wing glasses. They're like aviators with little, like, cat eye wings on the end. It's hilarious. Right. And then he's going to go put his hands in his pocket, and he gets decked from behind by the Dark Order. John Silver, 10, 5, Anna Jay, and Alex Reynolds are all out there. And then a very interesting take here. The ref throws them out, and Miro actually goes out and walks them down, so they actually leave. So kind of like a little babyface move right there to be like, okay, you guys are causing problems, get the hell out of here. Even if they are beating up his rival's friend or whatever on the outside, he's like, okay, you guys need to leave, because this isn't going to work well. So I thought that was actually a little nice character thing right there, that he's not total heel, and there might be a babyface in there somewhere that might get released at some point. Miro's basically in control the entire commercial break. Trent goes for a running rising knee. Miro just catches him like he's a sack of potatoes and just swings him around, gives him a Uranagi. Trent hits a flip dive to the outside, then comes back in with a swinging DDT, hits a sexy knee for a 2 count. Trent hits a springboard and slips. Miro super kicks him and then submits him with the camel clutch. they really need to not call it game over because that's Kenta's finishing move already.
Yep, I don't think that they're gonna stop. This was the
so
episode that put that over the top for me. I think they're definitely committing to calling it game over. So whatever. Yeah.
Somebody has to know that is Kenta's finisher. That is Kenta's submission.
I can't imagine they don't. Like, are they just purposefully acknowledging, like, not acknowledging New Japan? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have to say we're not calling it that because New Japan already uses it. Like, they would just call it something else. So that is a little weird. That Miro touch you were talking about, I thought that was pretty cool. It honestly, to me, it was like he kind of cared about like the sanctity of the match. You know what I mean? Like he was just like, that's what he was there for. And I think that's one of the directions I would like to see them take with him when he, you know, inevitably turns babyface and ditches Kip Sabian. Or maybe that's just my, you know, inner hopes and dreams talking. But I hope that's what happens. And I'd like to see him take a more like, so this is going to maybe be a weird comparison, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with Walter in NXT UK.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him go that approach where he's kind of like, you know, his character actually cares about wrestling, the sanctity of the ring, the, you know, the approach, no interference, just good in-ring action, following the rules. I think that's something that he could do really well, and also plays into the European aspects of, you know, him as a person, but also as a character, because they definitely talk about, you know, Bulgarian and whatnot. I think that'd be a cool avenue for them to go. Maybe, you know, dusting his feet before he steps in the ring. Like, I just think, not that they totally have to copy anything WWE is doing, and I'm sure he, of all people, probably wouldn't want to, but I think that'd be a cool move for him to kind of say, you know, I care about what happens bell to bell, and even if he was a heel, kind of do it with respect. I like that. But overall, yeah, cool match. They're continuing the feud. Again, Miro just continues to impress me in the ring 100%, and he's really good on the mic too.
Yeah, the finish, obviously that was probably not the planned finish with the slipping on the springboard. I think he was supposed to go for the springboard and Miro was going to super kick him out of the air, but they covered it so quickly, and commentary was great as well. They're like, oh, one little mistake from Trent just cost him the match. Right. So I thought that was great right there. They like Miro didn't even like miss a step after that. He just went straight to the super kick and put it on, and it didn't even matter that happened. Yeah. After the match, Kip Sabian and Chucky T fight their way back out to the ring, and then Miro and Kip beat up the best friends. Miro grabs the mic, says, like I said, you have no manners. It's all because of your mother. And Orange Cassidy comes flying in off the top rope, just doing a flop dive off the top onto Kip Sabian and Miro to the floor. And they finish up there. I thought that was a fun little thing at the end.
Yeah, it definitely was. I liked it, and yeah, I think it's really good. Not much more to say.
JR is with Adam Page in a sit-down interview earlier in the day. He is hammered, and he asks how he feels about taking on Kenny Omega, and he says that when he looked at both brackets, he knew it was going to be the two of them. JR asks about how their partnership is going to come into play, and Page says, well, you know, I know all of his moves. I know how to reverse them all, and JR's like, I think you're lying. I can see you're drinking. Are you nervous? And Page like doesn't want to, but he does give in and says that he is, and that he was the only one who thought he was going to be the first AEW champion, and if he wins this tournament, he'll be the closest he's been since that night when he did not make it to the top, and that if he fails, all he has is this glass of whiskey.
Right. When he said that, I actually chuckled a little bit because I was like, that's pretty much been all you've had all this time. Like, you've been on the glass of whiskey thing for a while. It's not like you're going to have to turn to the bottle. But one thing I actually really appreciate about both this segment and about the Kenny Omega segment is that they could have easily really just made this all about one another. But they both talk about the championship, right? And what that actually means. They're still both focused on the main prize, and it's kind of like, you know, in kayfabe, it's essentially like, we just happen to meet here, and I've got to go through my former partner to get to the championship. They're both approaching it with the, you know, the end goal, that belt in mind. So I appreciate that they both mentioned it's not a grudge yet. Kind of, I think we mentioned this last week. It's not yet a grudge match, really. It's a, hey, I got to go through you to get to the belt. So I really like that. I thought this was a very good segment. This is where JR shines, in my opinion. He did so well here. When he said, like, he just called him out. He's like, "Nah, I think you're lying. I don't think a lot of interviewers in other companies or even within AEW, there are some people who don't take that kind of direction or can't be trusted to really, you don't give them that kind of credibility. But because it's JR, you're like, yeah, absolutely, call him out for lying." So I thought that was really good.
Yeah, who was I? I was listening to somebody and they were talking about how all the interviewers in AEW ask questions that the viewer wants to know the answers to, and they think of questions that the viewers wouldn't even think of asking, and that is what makes a good interviewer. And with WWE, they just ask dumb questions that don't matter.
Just bad questions in order to set up scripted promos from their, and they've already written the promo, and then they go, oh, what kind of odd question can we ask this guy to prompt said written answer?
Yeah. Here, once again, Page shows that he is just one of the best actors in the company, probably in all of professional wrestling, no less, because he's just great. Like, he has great emotion in his face, and you can see the wheels turning just by looking at his face and what versus what he's saying, and he's just really, really good. Next up, we have a little video package just hyping FTR versus the Young Bucks. A lot of input from everyone kind of giving their picks of who is going to win. A little bit of additional sit down from the Bucks saying that they won't challenge for the titles again. But that was about it. There wasn't anything really new added with this video package, I don't think.
No, nothing new added, but I much preferred this to last week, which yes. I think we talked about had a lot of ups and kind of downs. It was a little weird. I didn't like some of the actual promo work and some of the way that they came across. I just thought it was a little weird. This package was like, oh, okay, this is really good. Like, I could have done without last week and had this be the method by which they announced the stip, if they were going to obviously still go that direction, because I thought this was a very good video package. One highlight that I really liked from it is that Arn Anderson, who is a babyface, predicted FTR. Usually you see kind of the party lines drawn here with heel babyface, but he predicted FTR and said that they're backed by Tully, kind of a little nod to, hey, I know this guy, he's the man, with him in their corner, that they're really going to continue to take it. I also thought that there was a great line where they talked about how the best tag team in the world is not measured by, accolades or, report. It's who has the gold. That is the person who is the best, right? And you can't say you're the best in the company if you're not the champions. So I thought that was a cool little line.
Yeah, I love these type of video packages. They do them a lot on YouTube, and they're usually longer as well. And I'm sure there'll be lots of video packages just like this in the Countdown show. It's very sports feels like something directly out of like UFC, because you'll see this all the time where you'll have little bits from the two competitors, but then you have all these analysts kind of talking about what they think's going to happen as well. And these are the type of video packages I want to see more of. This is on Dynamite, not just on their YouTube show.
Yep, I felt the exact same way, actually. When this segment was done, I thought back to some of the conversations that we've had and the roundtable we had last month, and it just made me think, like, this is what we were looking for. And to have something like this, instead of just being on the go-home show, maybe make it every few shows. If there's a big match you're building to, even if it's on Dynamite, put something like this together. I mean, I don't want to, with someone with not a ton of video editing experience, I don't want to say that this is easy to make, but it was only a couple minutes long, right? I'm like, you put together the footage, maybe it takes a few people a day or two, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to show and bring a little bit more fullness to your characters. Super good.
Yeah, guys who have been doing this and do this for a living, that promo package probably was put together in 2 to 3 hours at most. Like,
that's incredible. They need to do that more.
Yeah. It's not that much effort. And especially if you have a week to put it together, then you don't have like deadlines that you got to put together, and you get a little in there. To add a additional stip, I'm guessing you have not heard into this match, is that Tully is banned from ringside for this match.
No, I hadn't.
Yes, that came out today.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Tully will be banned from ringside at that match. So we'll talk about that when we get to our kind of previewing the Full Gear card here. Taz comes out next. He says the clock is ticking for Will Hobbs still. And then he says the reason he's out here is that he sat outside Tony Khan's office for 3 hours today trying to get 2 minutes of his time. And an assistant had to tell him that Tony was busy dealing with the talent who was going to be on the show on Saturday. Taz says, so now I have to come out here on your live TV show to get your attention. And he talks about how Cage is number one in the rankings, being 10-1, and he says that one loss doesn't matter, but that's to Moxley when he threw in the towel. And then he also says that Ricky Starks has won his last 10 matches, and he isn't even ranked. And Taz says that Cody and Darby are entitled, and he addresses Cody and says that at Full Gear there will be an FTW presence.
Yes. I don't remember if you were watching, or I don't know, I should say, if you were watching any WWE back when Daniel Bryan was on his Planetary Hero Championship run, like a couple years ago.
Nope.
With Kofi Mania. But one of the things that made him really awesome, in my opinion, was that he was this heel who kept saying completely true things, but the way he said it was like, grr, you know, you're so mad, but you're like, everything you just said is fair criticism, you know what I mean? When Taz came out, I was like, wow, everything he just said is completely true. He's still coming across like a heel, but it's like, yeah, absolutely. These two guys should totally be in contention. They shouldn't be just having to come out and do a promo on stage. They should be in matches and, you know, in matches high on the card at their rankings. That's one of the things that I think AEW really adds to the pro wrestling mix is just being able to talk about these records, being able to, and sometimes they don't even talk about it enough, but being able to say, these guys are unranked, they've won 10 out of the last 11 or whatever, and I'm managing both of them. I got two contenders behind me. It kind of gave me like old like boxing manager feels, like when's my guy gonna get a shot, you know? And he's got two contenders right behind him who are completely ready to go. And personally, what's cool, I think, about the type of promos that they've been doing, they're short and they're not doing any action. So actually, as a fan, I'm sitting here like, I want to see these guys in action. So it kind of lends even more credence to what he's saying, because I'm saying, when's the last time I saw a Ricky Starks match? Come on, let's go. I want to see him get in the mix. So I really love this. I love all of these guys. I thought Taz calling the guy into the ring so he could speak straight to the camera was pretty funny. And specifically, I think I've said this probably the last few weeks, big Ricky Starks fan. Ricky Starks needs to 100%, in my prediction, Darby needs to beat Cody for the TNT Championship, and that needs to be his first feud, is maybe a good few months worth of feud with Ricky Starks, because he's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they already had their match, like 2 weeks ago or something like that, so they're going to have to come back around on that a little bit. They'll probably give it a little bit of breathing space before they come back. Well, of course, they got to do the three-way with Moxley, Hobbs, and Darby against Team Taz with Lance Archer. I think I still want to see that 6-man because they didn't get to do it.
I do too.
But as far as like the rankings go, I wasn't sure how onerous it was going to be, but it actually hasn't been that bad, especially with they're not running house shows or anything like that. So, I mean, I'm looking at the men's rankings here. We're in November, so there's less than 2 months to go before they reset their rankings. So you look at Moxley's 20-0 this year. Brian Cage is 10-1, but he wasn't even in the whole year. And then we have like Darby Allin, he was in the whole year, and Sean Spears is also, he's ranked number 5. But Darby Allin is 13-5 for the year, and Sean Spears is 15-2 for the year. So 17 matches for 2020. I thought we were going to have some crazy numbers, but again, it's AEW, so they're not wrestling 6 times a week or anything like that. So these rankings aren't there. I don't think it's going to be as onerous as I originally thought it was going to be if they're going to reset every calendar year. So I think it's going to work out.
I totally agree. And I also like the role that they currently play in AEW, where it's not actually like they don't come out every single time and be like, here's my guy. My guy is number four. It's like they're not actually worried so much about the math, but they use it to do something like this, where he's able to come out, say, hey, these guys have, winning records, not just winning records, but great records. They need to be ranked, but only to use it kind of as impetus for getting them on the show. And they just don't browbeat you, I think, with like big numbers. They just use it and sprinkle it in so that you can say, "Oh, hey, yeah, that's a really great point as to why they should be in the mix."
Yeah, and if you look at the men's rankings here, we have 1 through 5 is Cage, MJF, Lance Archer, Darby Allin, Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears is the only one who hasn't already had a title match and has lost to Moxley. So it makes sense that these guys who have already lost to Moxley once in this particular title reign, that they wouldn't get another match even if they're highly ranked because they've already lost to him once.
Right.
So they could circle, if he continues to hold the belt longer, then yeah, they could circle around and pull one of these guys again. But they've already lost once, so why do they get a shot at the champion again when there are other people, while ranked lower, have not had their shot yet?
Right. And I think that AEW will keep the main title scene fresh enough that, eventually maybe these guys will get another shot because there'll be a title change, or again, the end of the year coming up, and these rankings are going to reset. So it's kind of almost like if the rankings reset and let's say Brian Cage shoots to the top again, I'd be fine with him having another shot, saying, hey, in the first 3 months of 2021, I'm now I don't know, 6-0. Like I'm ranked number 2. Give me a shot. I think that would be fine as well.
Yep. Next up, we have Private Party versus the Young Bucks. Was this match originally planned? For some reason.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think this was added, and I think it came out a little bit in the match. This was a little sketch for me. I didn't love this match.
Yeah, so let me check. Next week, no, this match was originally not on the card, and we actually had a match pulled from this card. So yeah, this was actually, so Scorpio Sky was supposed to face Shawn Spears tonight or last night, and Sky had to get pulled because he came into contact with somebody with COVID, so that's why that match was pulled and didn't happen last night. So this was kind of like a fill-in match. I'm not sure if they even needed to do it, but Private Party versus the Young Bucks, as Private Party are coming down to the ring. They get into the ring. Matt Hardy is on the outside. He gets attacked from behind by Sammy, who gives him a twist of fate on the stage and runs away.
Okay, when you said that, when you said attacked, I was like, you got to tell him how he was attacked. Twist of fate.
Twist of fate on the stage does not take it nearly as good as Sammy does. Sammy takes the twist of fate the best of anybody. This match was actually pretty much just a back and forth. Not as good as you would hope if you have the challengers going back and forth with a team that isn't even on the rankings, I don't believe. Yeah, they're not even in the top 5. So yeah, not the greatest look for your challengers here. And that might actually be part of the plan because, I mean, at one point, Nick got hit with gin and juice and Matt barely managed to break up the pin. The story of the match is really Matt Jackson selling his ankle the whole time. And Matt almost got rolled up when they went for the Meltzer driver, and then they have to finish Private Party off with the BTE trigger. So that is how they pick up the victory. Matt is actually legitimately working with an injury, according to Meltzer last night, that Matt has a partial tear in his MCL and a thinning of his ACL, which is also a minor tear as well. So he's got a minor tear in his MCL and ACL, which is probably not good. Says it happened way back when he jumped off the stage during that tag match where they did the double dives onto the tables. Who were they facing? Oh, the Butcher and Blade no DQ or street fight match. So that is where that injury happened. So interesting going into it that this is probably going to be the main thing. And then after the match, FTR comes out. They hit the Goodnight Express on Matt, and they go to Pillmanize Matt's leg again. Well, who should come out to stop them? Hangman Page. FTR runs off. Hangman grabs the chair off of Matt's leg. Omega actually runs out as well. He's a little late to the party here, but we have the nice little visual of Hangman standing behind him, holding the chair, looking at the back of Kenny Omega. But then he drops it, and they have a little bit of a moment. Kenny offers a fist bump, and Hangman accepts. And then Omega turns his attention back to FTR, but Hangman grabs him and spins him back around and says, "Don't you ever turn your back on me again." And they have some words, and Kenny kind of backs off, throwing his hands up in front of him a little bit. Be like, okay, you got it. And that was the end of the segment. Interesting little thing here with the Elite Saga continuing on.
Yeah, so as soon as they put the chair around Matt's ankle again, and I think it was Cash gets up to like the second rope or so, in my head, I'm just like, Hangman, come on, please be Hangman. And he comes out, running out there. The commentary should have gone nuts, in my opinion. I thought that would have been amazing, but they were like, hey, it's Hangman Page. And I was like, I would have been losing my mind if I was on commentary, like, just sell that. Because there's been so much dissension teased, and one of the last things, like, majorly sticks out in your memory in this storyline is him screwing over the Young Bucks in their tag match. After the whole FTR debacle, they kind of played him a little bit. So when he came out to save them, I thought it was a bigger moment than they kind of made it seem. And then the Bucks, like, didn't even really acknowledge it. They kind of just kept their eyes on FTR the whole time. And FTR kind of walks around the ring, and they follow him, and they're just kind of, like, shouting at him because obviously they're going to have a match. But in my head, I was like, they should turn around and, like, acknowledge the fact that Hangman just came out to save them. And then, of course, Kenny came out too, and it was almost kind of like they started, like, buddy with Kenny more, and Hangman was, like, just standing behind there like, hey, I was the first one out here. The visual of him behind Kenny with the chair was great. Little teases that they do like this. But the fist bump, it was good, but I actually kind of thought this is one area specifically where I kind of mentioned earlier that I wish that they had played up a little more intensity for their match. Like, I know it's not yet the grudge match, like I said earlier, but I would have still liked to see them kind of getting in each other's face just a little bit. Maybe, like, for instance, if Kenny had, fist bumped him, and when he turned around, maybe just been like, shot him in the finger or something, and just like, just some sort of little something that really teased, like, he's like, I don't really respect you anymore. You know what I mean? So I would have liked to see them just a little more at each other's throats to build, because now it actually feels a little less of a personal match. They have made it about the championship, but I do want a little bit of edge there. So overall, I really did like the ending of this. The match itself was I could do without, honestly, and there was a couple spots that looked a little hairy. I think Mark Quinn tried to hit a standing shooting star press while standing on Nick's back. I don't know if you saw that, but he basically almost hit himself in the face. He hit the standing shooting star and came down, like, right here with his face in his back. That looked a little weird. But I mean, overall, yeah, I wish that the number one contenders looked stronger. I know they want to put over Private Party and have continued to do so for the last year, but could have done without the match. Post-match was pretty good.
Yeah, I think they want to play up the drama that Matt is injured and they are not going into this, and going back and forth with Private Party, it makes them look like, oh man, this is going to be a rough night for the Young Bucks going up against FTR, who are at full capacity and are perfectly healthy and all that good stuff. So should be interesting.
It needed to too, because like when he slipped, he had him for the Meltzer driver and he fell to his knees and then almost got rolled up. It was like, that was actually kind of an important moment you need to know moving forward, because you're like, oh, hey, they can't use one of their, best moves.
Yep. Next up, we have what I wrote in the chat room last night was probably one of, if not the best in-ring face-off I have ever seen is Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. They have a face-off. Kingston says that he's going to destroy Moxley on Saturday, says he's going to give the belt to his mother and say, this is why I didn't give you a grandchild. This is why you don't have a daughter-in-law. It's because of this championship. This championship is all that matters. And Jon Moxley, you're the one holding it. So he's going to take it from him. And then Moxley grabs the mic and says that he's been in this business a long time and he's learned that loyalty is a bitch. And he never thought that you would be one of the ones to stab me in the back or turn your back on me. And he talks about how, you know, I was happy for you when you got signed to AEW. And, you know, I've also promised your mother Ruthie that I would look after you. I would make sure you basically stay on the straight and narrow and you aren't your own worst enemy. But you've changed, and then you have made a promise to your mom that you can't keep because you aren't getting this belt. And when they drop the mic, you can still hear some stuff on the camera mics, and Kingston's like, "You're gonna have to kill me." To take this. And then after he steps out of the ring, Moxley's like, well, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to make you say I quit. And I did not do it justice as what you just need to go see that segment because it was awesome. It was so amazing.
Right. So, like, I've actually been thinking about this a little bit when you and I have been doing our AEW reviews. And each week, I kind of want to make a point, and this will be the inaugural moment. This will be the thing that if you're watching this review, turn it off, pause it, go watch that. This is the one thing from Dynamite that if you see nothing else, go find this clip. I'm sure AEW YouTube is very good about putting up clips of like the big moments from each show. Go find this. It should have been the last thing on the show, in my opinion, 100%. This is all it needed too, like, because the stipulation for this moment was, I think they mentioned earlier in the show, that if there was any physical altercation between the two, the match was off for Saturday. They said they can't punch each other, but they're going to be in the ring. And they also did it unsupervised. A little bit of trust there. I thought that was funny. There was no one else in the ring. You know, Shivani was in there at first interviewing Kingston, and he told him, get out. When Moxley came out, he basically said, Shivani, get out of the ring. This is between me and John. This was the greatest face-off between two competitors, just period. Like, I don't know what else to say, and I don't know, I'd have to go back and look, but in my wrestling, so fans of the show will know that, you know, I've been a fan of wrestling probably only for the past 6 or 7 years or so I'm a recent wrestling fan. Since then, this is the best showdown between two competitors I've ever seen. They're both incredible promos. They have been for the last few weeks. Every video package has been incredible, and this was the absolute cherry on top for this feud. I suggested recently that for That's Wrestling, we should have a bunch of our other co-hosts on and maybe do an award show at the end of this year. This is 100% in contention for Feud of the Year, and it's only been like a month long. It's incredible work. When he said, like, it just felt so real. Like when Moxley said, you know, your mother Ruthie, you should have seen the reaction on Kingston's face. And he said, you keep your name out of, or her name out of your mouth. Oh man, it was absolutely wonderful. Just a masterclass in promo and acting from these two guys, and almost doesn't feel like acting. Actually, Kingston, when he was leaving the ring, said, "This is real, Mox. This is real," and it felt real. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think this promo is going to be one of the most memorable promos of all time, and this is, like you said, this is just a masterclass on promos. And it was amazing. Like I said, this is probably one of, if not the best face-off between two guys that I have ever seen. And I've been watching wrestling since I was 8, so going on 30 years now. So
things to me as well is when Moxley, like, there was just this little hint of like heel savagery toward the end, because Kingston, who doesn't want to get his match taken away, and what I thought was a babyface move, turns and looks straight away, and Moxley's behind him, just kind of antagonizing him. almost trying to get him to hit him, and he won't. He's just, he's standing there straight ahead while Moxley's behind him. This great visual of him over his shoulder, just with the mic, egging him on. And when he said, "You've made a promise to your mother you can't keep," I was like, that's actually a really mean thing to say, Moxley. So it was just this really cool dynamic where it's like, obviously, Moxley is the Stone Cold-esque babyface champion, but there's just this little bit of real, like, ooh, like that was rude in my opinion, but it makes him just that extra edge, and it gives Kingston in this match, like, there's a little part of me that will pull for him. You know what I mean? So it's just a great setup for the feud. And again, I couldn't even do it justice. Just please go watch this segment.
Yeah, the visual of him turning his back on Moxley while Moxley is talking, and then just how it was set up is Moxley's, speaking over the shoulder. It was very like, the classic cartoon trope of the angel and the devil on the shoulder talking back and forth a little bit, because he had some of that as well. He's like, I promised your mother I'd look after you, I was happy for you and all this stuff, and but on the other hand, I'm still gonna have to beat the crap out of you because that's just the way it is, because I have this title. But yeah, it was definitely amazing, and yes, it is on their YouTube channel right now.
Good. Go watch it. Pause this, come back to us, but go check out that segment.
Next up, we have a video from Pac, and it actually starts off when it fades to black. You hear in the background Eddie Kingston yelling, "Where's your little British friend?" when he addressed the Lucha Bros at one point. And then it shows Pac sitting there watching Dynamite, and he says, "You see, the funny thing about isolation is you got nobody to play with." And then he says he's been across the Atlantic for 7 months, but don't worry about me being lonely. I've been lonely before. Every day that passes, I get stronger, I get faster, and I see everything. And in this, while he's sitting there on the couch, there's like 10 others of him just in the room, like freaking out. It was a great video package. I love these video packages that Pac has done from his home. I don't know if that's his actual home, but from England, because we've seen that room a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he's kind of, because he's so good in ring, I think people start to sleep on his mic skills and promo skills a little bit. I think he's, in a sense, underrated. Like, of course, you would say, hey, is he good? Then someone would say yes, but it's not thought about as much when you think about Pac. And man, this was really, really good. There were kind of little, like, weird, like, almost technical glitches where other copies of himself were appearing in the room. But he was dressed in, like, a tie, but all the guys around him, a cool note, were all in ring gear. It was like him in gear. Obviously he recorded himself at different positions in the room, but he's in a tie. So he's watching, but mentally he's ready, was kind of the idea I got behind that. And I thought it was super good. That dude, you hit right on it. I was going to mention it. That little touch of Eddie Kingston's voice at the beginning just is a hint that that's where he's coming. He's coming back for Kingston because he wants to take back, Death Triangle, essentially. I'm thinking there'll probably be a split in that family with Kingston. Kingston probably with the Butcher and the Blade if they keep that going.
And Penta. And Penta. I think Phoenix and Penta are splitting.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that's why they're having their match next week. They're having a rematch next week.
Interesting. But yeah, that was definitely the little added detail that made this video package for me, was the use of Kingston's recorded voice in the beginning. It just gets me real excited because I'd love to see some matches between them.
Yeah, he always had really good video packages. I'd always ask, okay, why are you wearing ring gear walking through the streets of wherever you are? Put on some clothes. Right.
Newcastle upon Tyne, England. Right. Like, they're probably looking at you like you're an idiot.
You just walk around town in your ring gear? I thought it was pretty funny. Actually, somebody posted it online. There's a problem with his claim of being isolated. I just saw him walking his dog and going to the grocery store this week. Backstage, we have Alex Marvez with QT and Dustin. Then Ali comes in, says thanks for all the gifts, but your credit cards are maxed out, tosses them at QT, and then Butcher and Blade come in and beat the crap out of them. That was about it.
Yeah, they said more credit card maxed out and whatever. I don't care about this anymore.
Yep. Nyla Rose with Vicky Guerrero versus Red Velvet with Brandy Rhodes. Red Velvet has been taken into the Nightmare family, and they see something in her, and she's been training there. Red Velvet attacks right away with a bunch of kicks, but then Nyla pretty much kills her, hits a beast bomb, pulls her up at 2 so she can send a message to Shida, who is watching on the outside, pulls her into a sitting position, hits the running knee that Shida uses, and then pins her. And then Vicky has a little bit of a issue with Brandy, calls her the chief bullshit officer, and that Vicky says Tony Khan is finally listening to what she has to say. Nyla Rose is going to break your bones, make you cry, and take your title. And then Shida hits Vicky, and then Nyla and Shida get into a little fist fight, and that was about the end.
Yeah, that was about it. Honestly, the one thing about this was like, why haven't they done this earlier with Vicky? I like Vicky with Nyla. Why haven't they done this more or already? It was like, this feels a little late, 3 days before, your pay-per-view, to get Vicky talking. Like, she did really good. I like her. I wasn't sure if she still had it, honestly. Like, not that she doesn't, but like, how would she do on TV? She's only been on, a few times. I thought she did a really good job. I wish they had done this a few weeks ago and allowed it to build even more. And now it's kind of like, oh, you just started what is now actually starting to be a little compelling, but you've got, all of 3 days.
Yeah, they paired them up, months ago? A couple months ago.
At least a couple months ago.
So, and Vicky could have done this without Nyla being there as well. And I think Vicky lives in Florida. I think she lives close by anyway, so...
Right, you mentioned that last week. Why can she not just be there?
Right. Next up, we have an Omega and Hangman Page hype video, very similar to the one with FTR and Young Bucks earlier. And then they do a montage set to You Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone. I laughed out loud when the music started. It was great.
So I did too, and I'm still undecided if I like that. I'm trying to figure out if that's too cheesy. I don't know what you think. Like I
thought it was great
because I don't know if I loved that or if I thought that was like too much.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay. I was leaning toward love it because when it started, I was like, hang on. So it was fun. I'll go back and rewatch it. Maybe if that's on their channel, I'll rewatch that as well. But I think I'm leaning more toward like, but it caught me off guard a little bit.
It would have been better if they had tied it into it. That was the video package that Brandon Cutler was putting together on behalf of Hangman Page from Being the Elite to send to Kenny Omega.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
That would have made a little bit more sense. Next up, we have a Darby Allin video package, much more in line to his older videos that he has sent in the past. He is holding a skateboard, and he has a old car that has the face of TNT written on the hood of it, and then he runs over a guy dressed as Cody with the car.
Yeah, actually, when I saw this, I was like, I know Darby likes to do the weird stuff, and like, not weird, but he's got his own vibe and his own little video packages he does. I'm sure he does all of this himself, essentially, and sends it in. Like, I like this. Remember, I think we mentioned the one last week where he just kind of got in a body bag and did like, the drop in there. And again, like, that's fine and all, but this was much more in line with what I'm looking for, where it's still like it's his own style, but it's clearly referencing the match. And when they had the Cody cardboard cutout face with the cigar,
yeah,
like I actually was like, that's pretty good. And he hits him with a car. I was like, this is very good. So actually, I was way higher on this, and I'm glad that they used this one for the go home. It was really cool. It was Darby's moodiness, and he hit Cody with a car. Cody, so it was pretty funny.
This was back to his other neo-noir, film noir type of things that he was doing. So this one made way more sense than the other ones that he's done.
I really liked it.
Yep. Next up, we have John Silver, Colt Cabana, and 10 from the Dark Order facing Cody Rhodes, Billy Gunn, and Austin Gunn, the Gun Club. As a side note, WWE has given up their trademark to Cody Rhodes, so Cody can actually go by Cody Rhodes now if he wants to. In exchange, Cody gave up his pursuit of a couple WCW trademarks, and they came to a deal on that. So he can use Cody Rhodes again now if he would like. I'm sure he's going to register. Well, he's registering it to himself now with no challenge. Everyone at the beginning of the match runs through both sides. Basically, everybody gets in within the first 3 minutes. They just run through a tag, but eventually they beat on Austin Gunn for quite a while. The Dark Order does. Billy hits a famouser on 10, but the pin is broken up. 10 comes back, hits a cutter for a 2 count. Silver does a dive, but Cody catches him, tosses him into the front row. Austin Gunn hits the quick draw on 10, gets the pin. So we have the youngin getting the pin here, and then Dark Order gathers on the outside, and Silver comes up from behind with a chair, but Orange Cassidy runs out and stops him, hits him with the orange punch. And then after the match, we have, well, they actually showed him quite a few times, Darby Allin sitting up in the bleachers. Cody grabs the mic, says that he doesn't like telling a story that isn't true, and he says that his opponent has been telling people that TNT doesn't want him as the face of TNT, that he's too reckless. And Cody says that's not true at all. They would love for you to be the face, and in other circumstances I would love you to be the face as well, but unfortunately he has the title, and this is the ace title, and you are not the ace of this company at this time.
Yeah, I really liked this and wished that it had been swapped with the Moxley and Kingston promo. That was one of my main things about the show. I'm like, that should have closed, and this could have definitely happened. Maybe they just wanted to end with a match, because he kind of did his promo, post match. He took, the remaining 3 minutes or whatever of the show to cut the promo.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was all good. I like Cody. I like all of Cody's promos. Basically, I think he delivers it with true what really feels like truthfulness, and he's just very genuine when he cuts his promos. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is bordering on realism. You know what I mean? And I just wish that they had swapped it. That's pretty much it. I wish that the main, world championship had the final spot on the Go Home show, because, again, that was the best thing on the show by a mile, and that's not even to diss on the rest of the show. The rest of the show was pretty good. It just, that was the best thing easily. They should have ended with that. But I do like the fact that we're going to this Darby and Cody. A little bit telling to me when he said, "You're not the ace of this company." I'm like, okay, well, he's about to be, because that in my head, my prediction is that he will win the championship. And I thought that was just a little tease. So I think that's where we're headed. And, good match was fine. Austin getting the pin was a surprise to me. Good for him. Maybe they're starting to get behind him. I think the quick draw looks a little weird. That's just me. I just think it's a silly move. But otherwise, it was great.
Yeah, it's like a vertical, it's like a vertical suplex into like a twisting neck breaker type of deal. I think it's just kind of, I'm not sure if he performed it correctly or not. Anyways, can AEW get their audio straightened out? This bugged the crap out of me throughout this entire show, where they would cut to a video package and it would echo back through because they wouldn't shut off arena mics or isolate the channels for some stupid reason. I don't know why, but they always have this problem.
Yeah, that happens more than it should, for sure, for a very professional product. Now, I have to admit, though, when AEW began, I mean, I'm talking like All In, first few episodes, Dynamite, there were a decent amount of technical problems and just little, especially audio issues that really, I think, plagued a few of those shows for a while. And I was like, all right, let's see if they can get it together. And for the most part, they have. But this is one thing that continues to happen. And I'm like, it's not a huge concern, but you're right. They get that echo, especially at the beginning of the Hangman and Jim Ross promo they did yesterday. It was echoey, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the second Dynamite show, and they had audio problems for those of us in the arena when they were playing any vignettes or anything. There was no audio. There's no audio for anything that was showing on the screen. So it's like, hello, that's a problem.
Yeah, I just would have thought that they would have sorted that by now, essentially. The other thing is that if we're complaining about AEW audio, I think that a lot of the theme music should come in a bit better, a little louder, because sometimes, especially over commentary and everything, it doesn't actually allow you to develop the same kind of bond with the music. And I think like WWE, they straight up put it out, your speakers essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even, you're not just hearing what's in the arena, they're putting the music straight through the main audio. I think AEW, if they're not doing that now, which I don't think they are, they need to do that for sure, because you need to have, part of wrestling is connecting with the theme music so that, when your guy comes out and they hit his music, you're like, oh, it's so and so, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you need to be able to connect. And I don't think that a lot of their theme music is hitting right now. So I'd like to see that brought a little bit volume up for Dynamite, so that when you get to the pay-per-view, your hype builds because you form the connection with the music.
Yeah, I can barely recognize anybody's music. Like, I know
Right.
Kenny's, the Bucks, and Cody's, and that's about it.
Right. Yeah, there's a few more, but they just don't play them enough, and some of them are a little too generic. Like, there are some standouts. Hangman is a standout. Best Friends
Hangman's I know too.
Out, right? Best Friends, like that's recognizable at this point. But there are a lot of guys who deserve a little better, and I think they either need more unique theme music, or they just need to put that in a little bit more prominently, so that you start to identify it.
Yeah. Next week, they already have 2 matches for next week's Dynamite, even though we have Full Gear coming up. Penta will be facing Phoenix once again. This is where I think we're going to head into some sort of fracture between the two of them so they can go off and be singles. It would make sense for Penta to go full heel and Phoenix to go babyface. I think that's the direction they're going. I think that was the direction that they were kind of heading out of their first match, where Penta went for the arm breaker. And then remember when Phoenix came out with Penta for Omega's, Phoenix put up his hand for a high five and Penta just like smacked it away.
Slapped him down. Yeah.
I think they're due for a breakup here, and that would make sense. And then Butcher and Blade versus Natural Nightmares. That match is going to be happening as well. So let's get into. Do you have time? I know you're kind of hard deadline.
Yeah,
here.
I've got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So let's run through our predictions for Full Gear.
All right. So for Full Gear, we have a few matches that have been added. Well, a match that has been added. We have Serena Deeb versus Allison Kay for the NWA title. That's actually going to be on the buy-in show. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. Allison Kay is former NWA champion and a current free agent. Serena Deeb is actually signed by AEW, but is NWA's champion. So that's a fun little thing right there. So looking forward to seeing how these two go. Serena is, of course, really good. Allison Kay is former champion, but I have not seen any work from Allison Kay, so I can tell you.
Right. Definitely got Serena for this one. I've got my my notepad here. If you don't mind, I think it'd be fun. Let's give some predictions and we can review next week.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going Serena as well.
Same.
Orange Cassidy versus John Silver. This has been brewing, and actually Tony Khan was on Unrestricted talking about how he basically ribbed John Silver. Did you hear this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so he ribbed John Silver, and he called him into his office and said, "John, we have a problem. You show all this personality on BTE. Where's that on Dynamite? I want to see that on Dynamite."
That's funny.
So that is why he has been bumping it up a little. But here,
I had noticed a little bit of that BTE personality come out over the last couple weeks.
But here I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy over John Silver.
All right, this might be the tiebreaker. I'm going with John Silver by shenanigans. I think that they're going to get behind him based on the TV time he's had for the last couple weeks. I mean, not like he's going to be a contender anytime soon, but he's very entertaining. He's very funny. And I think we're going to see some Dark Order shenanigans. I got him to win this one.
Okay. The next one I think is my hardest one to pick. Jericho versus MJF. If MJF wins, he will be allowed into the inner circle. I don't even know which way this is going to go, but I am going to go with MJF on this one.
Okay. So I'm just putting down the match name. Here we go. So this one is also tough. I wouldn't say it's the toughest one on the card for me, but I do think MJF also. I think now's the time. I think that he can absolutely, like, they've gotten behind him. You know what I mean? Like, he's absolutely one of the stars, and you've got to start at some point saying, "Hey, this guy." I know we've talked about Jungle Boy a little bit before, but I think MJF is beyond that stage even. And when I say, "Hey, Jungle Boy needs to be one of your top guys in a few years," MJF needs to be one of your top guys soon. I mean, in the next calendar year, he needs, or like a year from today, he needs to be in the top positions. Obviously, he already had a match with Moxley, so he's in that contention role. But he needs to be one of your top guys, and he's a homegrown sort of MLW, counts. But he's an AEW guy. He's not been tarnished by WWE, so I think that he's going over here.
Next up, we have Cody versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. I think it makes sense at this point to put it on Darby. This is going to be their fourth match against each other. I think Darby is going to take it here.
Yep, totally agree. Now is the time.
Next up, we have Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy in the Elite Deletion match at the Hardy compound. Hopefully, I think this has already been filmed, so hopefully it goes okay. Obviously, they were both on Dynamite last night, so if it's already been filmed, they're obviously both still alive. But I have no idea which way to go on this one, so give me yours, and I will come back after I look at the rest of this card here.
This is actually the one. This is the hardest one for me. I think that this is. It's got to be Sammy, I think. I think it has to be. I just don't know if, like, they've done this feud. This is obviously, I think, the blow off for the feud. And if I know Matt Hardy, if I know AEW, I think they probably want Matt Hardy to win. And I think Matt Hardy probably said, no, like, it has to be Sammy. And this needs to be the end before one of us dies. So, yeah, I think it has to be him. And I think that'll surprise some people. But, again, this is the hardest one for me.
And I think this is where Hardy re-breaks. And
okay.
We go back. Broken Matt comes back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. But what's your actual prediction?
I think Sammy is going to win, and that's what's going to break Hardy.
Okay, that's totally fair. So we both got Sammy on this one.
Both got Sammy on this one. Plus, that would make all of my predictions. This is like the only heel winning on the show.
So hang on. So is Cody the heel in his match?
Oh no. That's a. Sorry. Yeah. Well, no, because I said Darby Allin's going to win, so that's a babyface.
Oh,
so
true. That's what I mean.
On all. Well, Cody's also a babyface, so I guess it wouldn't really matter on that side.
Okay.
But all of my picks are all baby faces except for that one. FTR versus Young Bucks for the AEW tag titles. It'd be almost ridiculous not to pick the Bucks on this one. With the stipulation, it almost telegraphs the finish. We've been swerved before, but I think it does not make sense in this case.
100%. We've been here before with Cody. I think him losing was a surprise, but it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool. They're gonna do something different, and obviously, eventually, they introduced the TNT title, which is now almost synonymous with Cody, and probably will be for the future of for the future years of AEW. Cody will really be synonymous with that belt, and maybe that's really what he wanted for himself. I think in this case, it has to be the Bucks. It can't not be. And because I do think eventually one day Cody will challenge for the title as a heel, and he'll break that promise essentially. I think don't do the exact same thing with the Bucks. I think the Bucks need to win.
Yeah. Next up, we have Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's Championship. This one might be a little bit of sticking on me, but I would like and hope and think that they will keep it on Shida.
Okay, gotcha. I've got Nyla. I think they're going back to her. Right. I also am I think we agree. I want them to keep it on Shida. I don't think they will. I think this is going to be a big title change for them.
All right, so we have a second one where we disagree on. And then lastly is Mox versus Kingston. I do not see them putting the belt on Kingston. He wasn't even going to be slotted in this spot anyways. They already beat him once for the title, which kind of telegraphs their thoughts on putting it on him in the first place. I don't think they would come back to a rematch to put it on him. So I think Moxley's going to.
Yes, I totally agree. Though for different reasons, I think that they actually, even though they did do a match already between the two of them, I kind of think that this this promo and this program, I mean to say, has kind of reinvigorated him and really like. I forgot completely about the fact that he lost to Moxley already. You know what I mean? Like at this point, they've done so well with distancing from that, moving forward, setting up the story, how personal it is between the two of them, that I definitely think that I think Moxley's going to win, but I almost don't really consider the fact he's already beaten him in that decision. It's kind of like, that is totally separate. They've done a great job of making this its own feud. And this is the match, though, that, again, I don't think they'll put it on Kingston, but the near falls here, I'm going to bite. Like, if they get to, 25 minutes and Kingston hits his back fist, I'm going to be like, maybe, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I have a feeling this match is going to be brutal, and we're going to see a lot of blood out of this one because it's an I Quit match, so no DQ. Right. They can do whatever they want, and the two of them being in CZW together before, I'm guessing these two are going to go crazy, and they might be topping topping Omega Moxley lights out match on this one.
Yep. I think so too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but in the end, it's got to be Moxley in order for Kenny Omega to take it, sometime next year.
Yep. And then the last match, Hangman versus Omega, number one contendership on the line. The next title shot.
It's Omega.
It's Omega.
And because I do think that Hangman's gonna, the eventual story I think they're gonna tell is Omega takes it from Moxley. Hangman eventually takes it from Omega, that's the big blow off grudge match. And then MJF will take it off of Hangman. That's, a couple years down the road.
Yep. I believe in our year-end show, I predicted that Omega was going to be holding the title at the start of next year, but I don't know. I don't think Omega and Moxley is going to happen until Revolution, February.
Yes, no, totally agree with that.
That's pay-per-view
match.
And
I think that's the right time.
Yep. So that would give Moxley a 1-year title reign. So not too bad. And that's why I think. No. Yeah, he's had a really good. I think he's had a really good title reign, and of course his promos are amazing, and he's just done a lot of great character work. And Omega's time has to be pretty much soon. He is a lot older than Hangman Page is, of course, so you want to get what you can out of Kenny Omega before he wraps it up, because he is getting up there in age. Isn't he in his late 30s at this point?
Yes, he is.
So he I'm sure he's gonna start. He's not going to be able to wrestle the style that he wrestles forever. He's stayed relatively low on the injuries. He has had some knee problems here and there. I think he had knee surgery around one of the G1s, and was it 2017 or 2018? He had knee surgery around one of them. But yeah, now's the time for Kenny Omega, and I think Kenny Omega will be the next AEW champion, taken off of Moxley, and then he'll be full heel at that point, and
absolutely. So, all right, I've got all our predictions written down. We will review these together and see who won.
All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up here?
No, sir. I got to take off.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening to That's Wrestling, the AEW Dynamite post-show. Be sure to tune in on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing the review show for Full Gear, and Dave Colarusso will be joining us as well, which he has joined us on pretty much all of the post shows for pay-per-views. He does have his power back after it got knocked out from the hurricane. Hopefully the new hurricane does not swing towards Texas, because that would really suck for him to get double hit. If you're listening as a podcast, head over to the YouTube channel and check it out there. We do this show live, and there's a Discord. Comment, question, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. Check out Twitter at that'swrestling1. Caleb needs to work on, because he hasn't done anything with it since I gave him the access. So for Caleb Johnson, my name is Eric LaRoche, and we'll see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.